Mr. Secretary, thanks for being here. I want to talk to you about the future. The IC has assessed, and we regularly hear it from both former and current government officials, that the Russians will be back. They'll be back to disseminate fake news. They'll be back to hack and steal and dump disinformation intended to harm good people. They'll be back to find their way into the very infrastructure we trust to help us choose our elected officials, the very infrastructure we choose or trust to uphold our democracy. And I think more than anything, that puts this entire question into very vivid and stark relief, and it is namely as follows. I'm from the school that says America is exceptional. We're going on nearly a quarter millennium of the longest running democracy in the history of our planet. But it's not just the longevity that distinguishes us, it's our rule by law, it's our free, fair, open elections conducted with integrity, and most importantly, quintessentially, it is the peaceful transfer of power. Nobody else has ever managed this. Regularly transfer power in a peaceful manner. And the winners and the losers accept the outcomes. Why? Because we are ruled by law, because we do have free, fair, open elections. And that is what is at stake here. That which defines us. This goes to the very core of who we are. But my question for you, sir, just to be abundantly clear, will the Russians be back?
I think we have to assume, for all the reasons that have been discussed here, that the Russians will be back, and possibly other state actors and possibly other bad cyber actors.
Fair to assume you are concerned, if not worried, about 16 and 18 elections and all others going forward?
Yes.
So you did an excellent job in the preceding 2 hours of highlighting what you consider to be the greatest vulnerability, namely the voter registration database. I just want to make sure that people understand that the harm here, the risk here, can be insidious. Because I think when people hear that, their reaction is, oh, the addition or deletion of names. But it's more than that, is it not, sir? Could it not, as an example, include changing the spelling wholesale of a bunch of names such that when those voters showed up at the polling places, they were turned away or denied? Is that not yet one of many examples of how infiltration and manipulation of voter registration databases could wreak considerable harm?
Yes, I think that's a fair question, and I think that's a fair comment. One thing I do want to emphasize, though, we've talked a lot about voter registration databases. When I was at DHS, I always encouraged my people, don't respond to the last attack, try to anticipate the next attack. So I think it's incumbent upon all of those who manage the system to look comprehensively at where there are vulnerabilities. We've focused on voter registration databases. I've focused on them because that is a known exposure that we saw.
And Mr. Secretary, is it also true, to clarify, this doesn't have to be done wholesale voter registration databases. This can be done in select or targeted communities or municipalities. And the undermining of confidence in our system would be, however, wholesale.
Correct. Yes.
I don't know how many times I lost count of the references to the adage that hindsight's 20/20. I don't want to talk about looking back last year. I want to talk about how we're going to look back at some point in the future. I've always believed it's easy to judge those who miss the obvious or the dangerous inflection points. Those who miss that Chamberlain's appeasement at Munich would lead to World War, or those who missed that passage of the Gulf of Tonkin resolution would lead to a war that arguably was unwinnable in Vietnam. But the truth is, there were plenty of people at those times who did know and who were raising their voices and who were ringing alarm bells. It's just that the warnings weren't heeded. My wish, my prayer, literally, is that someday we don't look back on today and this time, and deeply regret that we didn't heed the warnings, that we didn't take seriously enough of foreign powers' repeated efforts to undermine our democracy and make America weaker, and to sow wholesale lack of confidence in our elections, such that we do not accept the outcomes, such that we do not peaceably and peacefully transfer power, as is our nation's heritage, and is that which distinguishes us in the history of this planet. Because if we do, it'll be too late. Thank you, sir. I yield back the balance of my time.
Chairman yields back. Mr. Rooney.